Hey guys, it is Forge here and welcome back to another video and another Minecraft mod review for the Flux Networks mod for Minecraft 1.20.1. And I look like Steve at the moment because the Minecraft skin servers seem to be down. But anyway, let's ignore that. This mod is all about transferring energy, like for things like mechanism and thermal expansion, and transferring that energy completely wirelessly through a really simple network to set up. So let's go ahead and jump into this chest. This is everything that is in the mod, so let's get into it. So to get started in this mod, you are going to need this stuff called flux dust, and as it says here, it is obtained by compressing redstone dust with bedrock and obsidian. So this is a real simple process. You just need to find yourself some bedrock. Obviously you probably go down to the bottom of the world, but I'm a creative so I can just spawn it in. You can also use these flux blocks to do this as well instead of bedrock if you want to put this somewhere in your base, but these flux blocks actually require this flux dust, so you need to make the flux dust first, so you're going to have to do this on bedrock to start with. So what you're going to do is you're going to come a block above this bedrock and you're going to place down your obsidian, and you're going to grab as much redstone as you want to turn into the flux dust. So let's chuck in like 3 stacks, and then you go ahead and you just left click on that, and it'll turn the obsidian into cobblestone and turn all of the redstone dust into flux dust. The next thing we have is just a crafting ingredient, but it is the Flux Core, and this is made with an Eye of Ender, 4 obsidian and 4 of these flux dust, and you will get 4 of these flux cores. Then as previously mentioned, we have the Flux Block, which is made with 5 of these flux dust and 4 of these flux cores, and as I said, these can be used to make more of the flux dust, and it's also a crafting ingredient. And now we have 2 of arguably the most important things in this mod. That is the flux plug and the flux point. A flux plug is where you input energy into the system, so it's the receiving end, and this guy is crafted with a flux block and 4 of the flux cores around it, and you'll just get yourself one of the flux plugs. And the flux point is the output, so it provides energy to machines, and you can also attach it to cables from other mods. And this guy is crafted with a block of redstone and 4 flux cores, so it's a little bit cheaper because you're going to need a lot more of these probably. So now we're going to set up the flux plug and the flux point and actually set our first network up. And to do that, we're going to use the mechanism mod to show power going through. So I've got this advanced solar generator, which we can also connect a cable to, and this will just transfer energy through it. And this is just to show that you can both connect the flux plug straight in and also onto cables, and that's the same with these points. So for the input of energy, you're going to want the plug, as I said earlier, and then we just place this guy down. It just looks like this when it's initially placed. So to actually set up a network, we're going to go ahead and right click this guy right here, the flux plug. We're going to go create a new network with this plus here. We can name this whatever we want, so we can call this Forge One's network. We could just call this Forge One. We can call it whatever we want really. And then you can choose a security, so we can either be private or public or encrypted, so you have to put a password in. So we're going to just go private. That means only I can access it and anyone I give access to, so there's a place where you can add usernames and share with users. Then you can also pick a color, so we can have any of these colors. I'm just going to go with red, and as you can see down here, this is what our network is going to kind of look like, and we'll press create like so. And now that we've got a network set up, we can go ahead and click on this bar up here, and we can go ahead and just select the network that we want, which is Forge 1, and now we have a network which this thing is now passing through. And now we can go ahead and just set up a flux point anywhere in the world, and then access the GUI, and then click this same bar and set it to this network here. And now we can actually output power from here. We can either directly do it from the source, or we can do it through a cable, and as you can see, power is now coming into this energy cube here. And as you can see, there's a lot more to this GUI, but we'll get into that a bit more later. Let's cover the rest of the blocks first. And now we have the Flux Controller, and as you can see, the only real function of this is it enables the wireless charging of the Flux network, and we'll get into that a bit more later. But the way you craft this guy is with 5 flux blocks like so, 2 flux dust and 1 flux core. Also, this mod adds 3 different tiers of energy storage for you to store energy within your system. So we have the basic flux storage, which can hold up to 2 million FE within it, which is still quite a bit of energy, bear in mind. And this is crafted with 6 flux blocks and 2 glass panes of any kind. Then you have the Herculean flux storage, which can hold 16 million FE within it, and this is crafted with 6 of the basic flux storages and then 2 glass panes of any type again. And then finally, the gargantuan Flux Storage, which can hold 128 million FE. And as you guys probably guessed, this guy is crafted with 6 of the Herculean Flux Storages and 2 glass panes. So much like the Flux Plug and the Flux Point, the Flux Controller and the Flux Storages need to be actually connected to the network, so we can go ahead and connect this guy to the Forge 1 network, and now we can actually use the wireless charging as long as this guy is connected here. And if we go ahead and connect this gargantuan Flux Storage into the network, now the network can hold up to 128 million FE. So now a little bit more about the GUI. As you can see, there's a lot more to it, and there are also multiple tabs, so we're now going to cover all of this. So first we have the name, and this is just the name of the specific controller, plug, point, whatever. So we have this controller here, so we could call this main control if we wanted to. And if we come over to this gargantuan Flux Storage and we look at the network connection tab, which is up here, which shows everything on the network, we can now see this is called main control. So this is a good way of organizing your flux points and your flux plugs, just so you know what everything's doing and you can see what power is going where. And then we have the priority, and this isn't really for the flux controller, this is more for the flux plugs, points, and controllers. So the higher the priority on a flux plug or point, the more energy that's going to be given / taken. So for a flux plug, if the priority of one is 1 and the priority of another is 0, for example. So I've just set that up right here. This guy has 0, this guy has 1. So if both of these guys here are inputting power and a machine needs to use that power, it's going to actually pull from this flux plug first in the network rather than this flux plug. And the flux points and the flux storages are very similar in that the higher the priority, the more energy they are going to pull, so the more priority they're going to have over the energy in the system. So if this guy had the highest priority, the energy would get stored mostly before it was output as power, as it would have a higher priority. But then if this guy here had the highest priority of the whole system, this flux point, it would draw the most power from the system and take priority basically. And obviously vice versa, a lower priority will decrease the power strain on the system and make it less of a priority. Next we have the transfer limit, and this is just the maximum amount of power that these points or plugs can send per tick. So the default is 800,000 FE, but you can increase this, you can decrease this to whatever your needs are. And then you'll see we have this little bit here, and this is different depending on the device you're in. If you are obviously in the flux plug, it'll have an input and then a buffer. If you're in pretty much anything else, it'll have an output and a buffer. Obviously these guys then have a change. So the input here in the flux plug is just how much energy is being input into this specific flux plug. The buffer is how much energy is actually in the flux plug. In the flux point, the buffer is exactly the same, and the output is just how much energy is going out of the flux plug. Same for the flux controller as the flux point. And then in the flux storages, the change is just how much energy has come in or out of the system. And then obviously the energy is the energy stored within this gargantuan flux storage. Then we have these 3 little tick things here, which you just click on these bits here to activate and deactivate. First we have the power surge, and if you turn this guy on, no matter the priority in the system, the thing that has the power surge on will get the highest priority, and that's basically what this guy does. And then we have the bypass limit, and if we go ahead and turn this guy on, essentially what this will do is it will ignore this transfer limit up here, and it will make the flux point, flux plug, or whatever work at optimal capacity at inputting and outputting energy. And finally we have the chunk loading function, and if we go ahead and turn this guy on, no matter what thing you have the chunk loading thing turned on, the chunk that it is in will then be loaded. I will say this is normally disabled in most mod packs, so if this button isn't working for you, then that is probably why. The next tab along is the network selection tab, and this here is just where we selected a network, but we have already done that. But if we had more than one network, we could switch to another one here. Then we've got the wireless charging tab, and this here is what you need this flux controller to use. And the wireless charging is for things like this atomic disassembler or a jetpack or some armor like the mecha suit, which uses energy instead of durability to run. If we're now in this wireless charging tab, we can go ahead and enable wireless charging by clicking this, and then we can select the slots that we wish to wirelessly charge. So up here we have the armor slots. If we turn this on, then it'll charge anything in the armor slots. Here we have the curio slots. If we click this, it'll charge anything in the curio slots. What the curio slot is it's something here which you can click on, which is in some mod packs, and it has places for your like rings and backpacks and belts. Then we have the main inventory, and this is by default disabled, and it is disabled in pretty much every mod pack I've ever used. But then we have the hotbar. You can go ahead and enable this guy. You have the offhand and you have the main hand, and you can go ahead and apply this, and now wireless charging is effective. And you can see this here atomic disassembler starts charging while it's in my hotbar, but not while it's in my inventory. And I can put it also in my offhand and it'll charge. After that, we have the networks connection tab, which we already touched on. A few things I just wanted to add is you have this sort by function here, which you are supposed to be able to change, but there is only one at the moment, and that is this smart function, and that just sorts these by their priorities. And also you're able to go ahead and press the select items button, and then you can select anything on the network. So we could get this gargantuan Flux Storage, and we can edit it, so we can edit its home GUI just from anywhere in the network, and also we can go ahead and just disconnect it from here as well, and you can see this guy is now disconnected from the network. Then we have the network statistics tab, and this here shows the statistics for everything that is going on within this network. So we have the amount of plugs, points, storages, and controllers in the system. You can see the input of the system, the output of the system. You can see how much energy is in the buffer of the system, so 2054, and you can also see how much energy is actually in one of these storages. So if I just come on and enable this guy again, he should start filling up, and then if we come back into the statistics tab, it shows how much energy is being stored in that guy over here. The next tab is the network members tab, and this is the one I was talking about earlier when I said you could see who is on your network and allow people on, and this just show who is allowed on our network. And I am the only person in this world, so I'm the only person allowed on this network. But if it was a public network, you could see if there were other players on this network, or if it was encrypted, you could see they had the password and they could get on the network as well. You could see who was on it. And the final tab is the network settings tab, and this is basically like setting up your network. It just allows you to tweak things like the color, the name of the network, the security, etc. It also allows you to delete the network. You just have to double press the shift key and then you press this delete button, and it will delete the whole network and everything connected to it. Obviously not the blocks, just like the color from the blocks. So I think that's about everything to cover with the GUI menu. So let's go ahead and cover the last two things. So we have the Flux Configurator here, and this is basically a way to interact with the network without having to click on one of these points. And this guy is crafted with an Eye of Ender, 2 Flux Dust, and 2 Obsidian. So if we have this guy and we make sure to right click facing down at the ground, not in the air, if you do that it doesn't work for some reason, but if you face at the ground it does fine. We can access this menu here. You can see we have a couple options here like the super admin. This is only enabled here because I'm in creative mode and I have cheats enabled. If you're in normal survival mode, you shouldn't have access to this bit here. But if we go ahead and click on this bar up here and connect to the Forge 1 network like so, well, this is really strange. It's not letting me click on this bit here and select a network. But we have this admin configurator, which is the final item. This isn't actually craftable in survival, but this is what enables this super admin mode and stuff. But this guy does seem to work completely fine, and you can go ahead and select a network. So now you can see we have complete access to all the statistics and stuff of the Forge 1 network, and we can also remove devices from here and pretty much everything. So it's just a portable way of carrying around the network and editing it. Oh, I also forgot to mention this is also a copy paste device for network settings. So if I go ahead and shift and right click on this flux point, it'll copy the configuration, and then I can right click it just onto this flux point here, and it'll put exactly the same configuration as was on this one. But yeah, I think that about covers everything, and I'll be really glad to finish this video so I don't have to see this Steve skin anymore. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I hope you did learn something today. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye bye.